E10, loan authorization, equipment financing bylaw, and approval of the electors' options. Ms. Dalio.
Thank you, Your Worship. So during the budget discussions, Council approved some projects that had a funding source identified as either MFA debt proceeds or MFA lease proceeds. And so Council has approved those projects, but because these are debt funded and the agreements are for more than 5 years, there's a pretty particular process that comes to debt funded projects. So this is kind of the second step. There are 5 bylaws in front of Council today representing those projects that were selected. Because the agreements are for more than 5 years, there is also a question as to how to get elector assent. And so there are 2 different processes that can be used for that. As you'll see, this is a joint report from both myself and the corporate officer, Mr. Anderson. So I'm going to speak to the financial piece, and Mr. Anderson will come in and talk to you about your 2 elector assent options. So from the financial piece, you'll see that there's a table there summarizing the cost of the projects as well as the annual debt servicing costs. Annual debt servicing costs are approximately $2.6 million, which would result in about 1 2/3% of future tax levy increases. We internally fund projects the best that we can until we actually have the projects done, and then we only borrow what we actually need. So some of these costs will likely not happen until the projects are completed and we actually continue the debt process to its completion. So you wouldn't see these increases till 2027, 2028, or possibly even later than that. The 5 projects have some extra descriptions for you in the project if you're interested in knowing more about them. And then a general comment in the report also talks about, well, how much debt can we take on? And so this is a reminder that we do not have unlimited debt. There is a regulated amount from the province. We're well within it, but debt financing is still a very important and necessary component of how we fund our capital projects. It lets us spread the costs out over 20 years so that the people who are using it are the people who are paying for it. And also it helps, we set aside a lot of money for reserves and we use debt to fill some of the gaps, and that helps us maintain all of our infrastructure. If we only use debt as a funding source, then we would run out of that approximate principal borrowing available amount that you see there, $429 million. We have over $5 billion of assets, so if we had to only use debt, we'd run out of that money pretty quick. That being said, the MFA, as a reminder, is a very important organization in the province. It is a non-profit government organization that gives very, very affordable lending rates because it uses the collective borrowing power of the entire regional district and province and all the local governments, so we can maintain AAA ratings and the very, very affordable interest rates that come with it. Maybe I'll just kick it over now to Mr. Anderson for the elector assent options.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the 5 bylaws are available for your review, as each is a borrowing bylaw. It requires approval of electors to adopt. That can be done through an assent voting process, also known as a referendum, or through the alternative approval process, known as the AAP. The report lays out both options for Council, and Council will be required to select one. High level, a referendum puts a question to a vote with a majority required to pass. An AAP has electors submit a form if they are in opposition to the borrowing without first a referendum being undertaken. If more than 10% of electors submit a form, Council can decide to not borrow the funds or choose to do a referendum. As past practice, we ask Elections BC for the number of electors in the City of Prince George to determine the threshold for that 10%. Elections BC puts that number at 57,667. Therefore, 10% represents 5,767 electors. Staff have recommended the AAP process due to the fact that Council has approved these capital items in the budget, as well as it's more cost effective than a standalone referendum in cost, time, and staff resources being diverted. However, the decision is for Council to make. If Council directs a referendum be held, staff will return with a report on options and costs. If Council directs an AAP, there are motions available to Council. Plan is to submit these bylaws that require provincial approval with the hope that we can start the AAP process by April 28th, 2026. That will line up for a June 8th date for approval, conditional on approval through the AAP process. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. My first question is a financial one. Is it reasonable to say that we as a municipality buy by law or by practice, maintain the borrowing capacity to approximately 100 times more than our revenue capability? Is that how it usually works? 221 million in revenue, controllable revenue, versus 429 million in borrowing capacity?
So that formula, it is based off of 25% of the municipality's controllable revenues. So if we had a revenue of 200 million, you would have what would be called $50 million of annual payment capacity. So the 429 million is actually the principal. Your actual payment capacity, though, is based off of 25% of your controllable revenues.
Okay. Thank you. So this is, for everybody's information. We are not able to just borrowing for the sake of borrowing. Second question is by lumping the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 project identify, and then there will be subcategory as well. For example, facility roof replacement, that is involved not just one roof, but multiple roofs. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what we call a program budget with the city.
Program budget? Yeah, okay. So during the election year, we can simply put, this item, $30 million as a part of referendum. Do you agree? No, I'm not saying we're doing that. Theoretically, it's possible, right? As a referendum, that during the election, so there'll be no waste of staff time, because it will be just same time when people are going to do their ballots, would it?
Correct. We recommend AAP for kind of anything that we already own or rely on that we're reinvesting in to keep it active, or if we're rotating through our mobile equipment. So those are the kinds of projects where we will recommend AAP for you. Referendums we tend to save for big new projects, or if a really big and important building has come to full end of life, and then we're looking at the option of rebuilding a new facility. Those would be things that we would typically save for the referendum. While you could have a referendum in a year like this because the election's coming up, the timing isn't great because a lot of these projects, you're hoping to get them on the ground and running by the spring. And so the timing doesn't work well with an October election referendum tie-in. But maybe Mr. Anderson or Mr. Babbage could comment further on that if they feel I'm off the mark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Don't disagree with anything Mr. Dalio said, just on the timing piece, because there is procurement processes connected with this. Those would be postponed until, under your theoretical, adding these to the election ballot as referendums, then it would postpone the procurement process, and by that postpone the projects, and some of them I believe are very time sensitive. We were hoping to get moving on this AAP if council approves it very quickly.
Thank you. I can see no question in terms of the necessary project that we have to do based on these 5 categories. The one is I'm just maybe try to get a little bit more technical information so the public can understand why we doing this one. It's on the books for a while. Mr. Beasley, would you like to tell us regarding the envelope, the CN Center? It involved so much money, and it's how this come about?
Thank you, Your Worship. The CN Center is a little over 30 years old now. It is in really, really good shape in the interior. We get a lot of really great feedback from all the touring acts and so on that know arenas very well. What is not in very good shape are the exterior walls, the envelope. So this project is specifically to redo all of the exterior walls in the CN Center. This is a major project. It's going to stop the water infiltration, which is getting into the walls right now, which, as everybody can imagine, in an arena and a winter climate can do devastation if we don't address this. The good news is that this is one of these major moments for this major facility where in between 25 and 50 years from now, people will be quite happy that we took these measures right now, because this will in fact extend, for example, the doors and windows throughout the entire facility for at least 25 years. And then the metal cladding that's going on the roof and the exterior walls is rated for 50 years. So 50 plus years from now, those walls will still be in good shape. It's also adding energy efficiency into the the insulation, which 30 years ago was not done to the standards that we would expect it to be done nowadays. So it'll also be some energy efficiencies seen over the next 25 to 50 years for this building.
Since you mentioned energy, are we able to apply some climate change loans, grants from the federal government as a green funds towards this project?
Yes, Your Worship, this goes to what Mr. Daly was talking about in terms of using the money when and if we need it. So we will continue to be looking for those funds aggressively. The CN Center's already received a great deal of money, I think around $750,000 regarding the chiller upgrades and sorry, I can't remember, the HVAC system I think that we're doing there. But yes, the answer is we're absolutely going for grants. We don't have any on the books right now, but we'll certainly be aggressively exploring those.
Thank you. And with that assurance, can we assure the public that all this budget, we put a budget towards this capital plan, are we based on Class A, Class B, Class C estimation? Or are it's based on a very conservative estimation, but if the money is not used, be rolling back into the general reserve? Of course, we don't use it, right?
That's correct, Your Worship, yes. We're pretty confident with the estimates for this job right now, though, because of inflationary reasons and so on, it doesn't take long for the price to keep going up. But no, we are confident in the price right now.
Confidence, this is price, yeah. Okay. With that, I have no more further question. Councillor Klassen.
Thank you, Your Worship. In what pattern or how are we going to be voting for all of this?
We just go one at a time.
Recommendation 1, recommendation 2?
That's why it has to be done separately.
Okay. So I have a question about recommendation 1, which is, 2. Yeah. Well, wait. Okay, wait a minute. No, the 9607, the financing bylaw 9607, yeah, that is under recommendation 1. 9607, it's the first one at the top. Yeah. That one is for 5 different items. I'm wondering can we split those out so that we could vote on them separately?
Readings of the bylaw have to be of the entire bylaw, so you wouldn't be able to split them out.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's for this year, right? 2026.
All right. So my other question, just a general question, what is the interest rate we're paying right now with the MFA, and what is the interest rates we are getting on our reserves, like our money in the bank?
We haven't finished preparing the 2025 investment results report yet, but I believe the 10-year MFA rate is somewhere around 3.8%. So that would be roughly the interest rate that we're building these estimates off of.
That we're paying?
Yes.
And how much are we getting for money in the bank?
Like I said, I haven't done the 2025 investments. Those are coming to the Finance and Audit Committee in I believe it's June. Last year's, though, it was in excess of 4%, but I just don't know what those rates were for 2025. They were lower than last year's, though.
Okay. Okay. All right. As you know, I'm not a fan of the alternative approval process, so I'm going to be voting against all of these. But I would particularly, I think what I'd like to do is move that and see if I get a seconder on the 9609, the CN Center envelope. If we could defer that for the next council to deal with. So if I could have a seconder, that's on recommendation 8 or 7 to refer to the next council. I guess 7 and 8.
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9? Yes, okay, 7, 8, 9. So if I could have a seconder on that to refer to the next council.
Before we ask for seconder, Mr. Beasley, please give us from technical, what's the implication if this 7, 8, 9 defer one more year to the next council?
Your Worship, the best I can answer tonight, I don't think the building's going to fall apart by deferring it. The issue is well, there's a couple of issues. One, it was approved already and is on our corporate work plan. It's a major project. with the procurement process and the scale of this project, deferring it a year is actually deferring it. See, this year, if assuming this goes through smoothly, construction starts in 2027, where we actually start doing the walls, and it's a 2-year project. So this would put us back to 2028, 2029. I can hear my project delivery staff in my ear right now saying we would need to come back to council for sure then with a new budget to revise the budget
So you
because
will
of
start the
inflationary.
process all over again, kind of.
The price will almost certainly go up, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You had to start, you got number
Yeah,
change.
so from a pure process perspective, denying or delaying 7, 8, and 9 would not kill the project necessarily if council had another funding source in mind. But the problem is the price tag associated with that particular project. Kind of only maybe the lease in, lease out legacy reserve might have money to do that. So rather, you could propose that as a different funding source than debt. But right now, Mr. Beasley's right, you have an approved capital project of that amount for that work. This is just in regards to borrowing money to do it.
Thank you. Now we got that, and since your answer to the previous question to Councilor Claassen, the MFA 3.8%, and our investment cash in the bank is approximately 4%. Isn't that, shouldn't we borrow as much as we can and just put it in the bank account if we don't use it?
Please note that 4-point-something% was the 2024 return on investment. We've actually had lower investment returns since then, because as the prime rate drops, so does the cost of borrowing, and so does our investment returns.
So both number is,
Yeah, both numbers will kind of fluctuate together. Again, you wouldn't be able to borrow everything all of the time because you are limited by the province as to how much you can borrow.
I see.
So there's a responsibility balance of where you're supposed to set aside money for your capital infrastructure. We do that through means like the road rehabilitation reserve and the general infrastructure reinvestment reserve. But when it comes to very large projects like this, debt is a very necessary component to how we fund things because it spreads the money out over time. Otherwise, we would be asking for big spikes in the levy and then, big drops in the levy when we don't need it. So this is a way to smooth things out over time.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bennett.
Thank you very much, Worship. And this is actually based on, I think, the conversation Mr. Beasley was having around the CN Center. And I guess my question is, and this may be something that we have to talk about at finance and audit around fees and charges. But I'm trying to think of like when we have these major facilities and we talk here about the fact that these renovations are going to prolong the life of 15, 20, or in this case 25 to 50 years, depending on, like, is there a mechanism that we should be looking at where we're adding 25 cents or 50 cents as a charge to tickets or things for that venue, so that in 25 years' time, we actually have a reserve that will pay for the new windows and doors rather than having to necessarily come back in and go through potentially another borrowing exercise and, 5 or 6 councils down the road. Like, is that something that council could look at when it comes to fees and charges around some of our major facilities?
Yeah, fees and charges is the mechanism with which you recover the user fee portion of how we fund our infrastructure. What I would say is that you wouldn't be able to set aside enough money to do major reinvestment the way that you're speaking of. We have certain infrastructure that is fully tax funded, and that's when like everyone realizes that the whole community uses it. And then we have full user fee funded services like sewer and water, where we can actually measure the water that's coming in and out of your place and charge you exactly what you're using. And then we have blended hybrid funding, and that's the greatest example of that is your aquatics, your arenas, these recreational facilities where we partially charge the user for what it costs to run the facility, but it's a very small percentage. So for example, maybe Mr. Beasley can help me out. What's the current admission for a pool? Probably around $7 or so. If we were to really charge exactly what it costs to do full cost recovery every time you went to the aquatic center, it would probably be a $40 to $50 entry fee. So there's a recognition there that this is a community good, but we can still sort of put some of the burden on the people who are using it the most. And so that's where the fees and charges balance is going to come in, where council can decide how much essentially the general taxpayer is subsidizing the users of those facilities. These are the most expensive facilities that we run, our aquatics and arenas. And so it's highly subsidized. So while you could charge the user an extra 50 cents or something like that, it's not going to be enough to do a $60 million project one day. The goal when you're trying to make that balance is make sure that you're setting a user fee that is not prohibitive to the people who are using it. If you cost them out, then you have nobody going. And so you have to maintain kind of a delicate balance there. I'm sorry, I answered a lot to maybe a very
No, I think
simple
that's,
question.
I think that's helpful. I think we'll kind of set the context again when we get to, fees and charges moving forward. Because I think, again, we hear from the public, and again, ultimately, even adding or increasing fees to these facilities is still, in a roundabout way, still taxpayer funded. But it's how do we lessen the burden in the long term, especially when we know we have civic facilities such as pools and arenas, which, you know, if they weren't in operation, we would hear from it from the community. But how do we ensure that they're still accessible, but also planning for what will be the eventual replacement of? And you know, I think the aquatic center is another really good example where, you know, it's now closed for an extended period, and you know, a fairly significant cost to it. You know, it's going to prolong the life for another 25 years, hopefully more. But how do we start thinking about, you know, now we're going to have an aquatic center and a CN center and you know, some really key buildings both coming up again in 25 years' time, that councils of the day are going to be having potentially very similar conversations.
And so broadly speaking, the general investment or general infrastructure reinvestment fund is how we would start setting aside money for all of those sort of vertical assets that we're talking about. It's just we're still quite a bit behind. So as you know, we have a 1% extra tax, building that reserve up to a point where it can start taking on more of these debt-funded projects without actually needing to go to debt. Again, whether or not we'll ever get it to the point where we can fund major envelope, you know, projects regarding aquatics and arenas, I'm not sure we'll ever have a levy that high. You'll always need a little bit of debt to smooth these costs out over time.
Okay. No more question. Do we have a second for the motion on the floor? Motion died. Okay. Now we go through one at a time. Moved by Councilor Fazell. Seconder? Councilor Polillo. Recommendation number 1, first reading for PG Equipment Finance Bylaw number 9607, 2026. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carry. Recommendation number 2.
Move to.
Move to, Councilor Scott, second. Second by Councilor Fazell. We go to alternative process, no referendum. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carry. Recommendation number 3. Second by Councilor Bennett. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carry. R4. Second by Councilor Polillo. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carry. Recommendation number 5. Moved by Councilor Polillo. Second by Councilor Frazell. All in favor? Oppose? Carry. Recommendation number 6. Move 6. Second by Councilor Bennett. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carry. Recommendation number 7. CN Center building envelope. Moved by Council Polillo, second by Council Frizell. All in favor? Oppose? Carried. Recommendation number 8.
Move 8.
Move 8, Council Scott. Second by Council Frizell. All in favor? Oppose? Carried. R7. 9, that's right. Second by Council Frizell. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carried. Move 10. Second by Council Frizell. All in favor, number 10. Oppose? Oppose online? Carried. R11.
Move 11.
All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carried. Recommendation number 13.
Move 13.
Move 13, Council Scott.
Sorry, we missed 12, Your Worship.
12.
Sorry, move 12.
Second by Council Frizell. All in favor, number 12. Oppose? Oppose online? Carried. Recommendation 13.
So move.
Second, Council Frizell. All in favor? Oppose? Carried. Recommendation number 14.
Move 14.
Second, Council Polillo. All in favor? Oppose? Carried. Recommendation number 15. Second by Council Frizell. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carried. Recommendation number 16.
Move 16.
Move 16 by Council Polillo. Second by Council Frizell. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carry. Recommendation 17.
Move 17.
Move 17 by Council Scott, second by Council Frizell. All in favor?
Oh, sorry, just have a question here, Your Worship.
You got a question?
Yeah, I could have been for 16, but it fits under 17 as well. Just through to Mr. Anderson, are you able to talk a little bit about just how the public will be made aware of the process? And then I recognize, just how I guess this will be communicated out and people will know the process for completing it if they wish to vote against.
Absolutely. So the process is we publish public notice in accordance with our public notice bylaw, which is on our websites, on our Facebook page, as well as on our billboard. We have forms, sorry, lost my voice. We have forms available on the website to be printed off, and they can be submitted either through mail, email, fax, drop-off box, or drop-off at City Hall.
Excellent, thank you.
Are we on number 16? 17. You asked a question for 17 and 16, correct? Thank you. All in favor 17? Oppose? Oppose online? Carry. Recommendation number 18.
So move.
Second, Council Bennett. All in favor? Oppose? Oppose online? Carried.